One night, I stood in front of the mirror. The dim yellow light from the bathroom reflected a face that looked neither like a failure nor a success, just empty. No one was criticizing me, but no one was clapping either, and that made me feel almost invisible. The strange thing is, self-doubt doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just whispers. It doesn't say, "You are not good enough." It gently asks, "Are you sure? Are you really capable? Maybe wait a little longer, and you don't even realize it. You are not living wrong. You are just living small, shrinking, fading, disappearing. Not because you lack ability, but because you started to believe those whispers. But then one day, I realized something. Doubt is not my destiny. It is only a shadow that grows when I forget the light inside me. And that was the moment I understood. I don't need to wait one more second to start living as myself. I don't need approval. I don't need more confidence. I don't need permission. You only need one thing, one decision, the decision to believe again. This time with intention, with discipline, with the quiet faith that you are worthy, because you have always had it within you. You just forgot how to see it. And today, I will help you remember. We often think we are not good enough because we lack ability, experience, or the right conditions. But the truth is, most of us don't fail because we lack talent. We fail because of too much noise, not the noise out there, the subtle, persistent noise that echoes inside our own minds. That small but relentless voice whispering, "Are you sure? Don't make a fool of yourself. What if you're wrong? Maybe later is better." And we think it is wisdom, but it is not. It is fear dressed up as logic. It is doubt pretending to be caution. It is the ego quietly stepping back before we even get the chance to step forward. I lived with that noise for years. Still working, still socializing, still smiling, but not really moving forward. Because in my head, there was always a conversation I could never turn off. I wasn't listening to myself. I was listening to judgment, listening to the fear of what others might think, listening to the echoes of past failures, listening to the words I thought I had forgotten, but still held on tight. You are not good enough. And just like that, little by little, the noise drowned out the truth. And I lost a piece of the strength I once had. The most dangerous thing is not criticism from the outside. It is when you start agreeing with the limits others placed on you. When you begin to believe you should stay quiet, wait longer, stay still to be safe. When the noise in your head becomes the standard you live by, and you can no longer hear anything louder than doubt. That is why I always say, the first step to believing in yourself again is not about adding anything new. It is about subtracting. Subtract the comparison. Subtract the voices that never understood you. Subtract the endless scrolling through someone else's life while forgetting your own. Subtract pretending you're okay when you're tired. Subtract staying silent when your voice needs to rise. Confidence does not come from applause. It comes when you are brave enough to create silence within. Because in that silence, you finally hear yourself again, not the defensive self, not the wounded voice, but the original voice, steady, powerful, true, like the wind after a storm. You don't need a rush of motivation. You need clarity. And clarity only comes when you are willing to clear out the mental debris that builds up from living to please too many people for too long. You cannot move forward if your mind is stuck in what you failed to do. You cannot believe in tomorrow if your thoughts are trapped in the noise of yesterday. And you will not hear the truth, the one that says you are enough, if you don't actively turn down the channels, playing 24/7 in your head that were never even yours to begin with. Silencing the noise does not mean escaping life. It is a skill, the skill of creating a pause, a morning without your phone, an afternoon walk just to hear the sound of leaves, 1 minute of quiet before reacting to what upsets you. You cannot control the world, but you can always control how much of it you let into your inner space. That is how you take your power back. That is when you begin to hear the truth. And the truth is this: you are not weak. You are just overwhelmed. You are not lost. You are just too busy to reflect. You don't need someone to tell you that you are good enough. You just need enough silence to hear yourself say, I am ready. And when the noise no longer controls you, you will stop reacting and start choosing to live bold, to speak truth, to walk with clarity, not in a rush, not for show, just steady, purposeful. And that is the moment you remember who is holding the wheel of your life. There is a painful truth we often avoid. So many people are living life at only half their true height. They bow their heads not out of humility, but because they have grown used to not wanting attention. They step back not because they are generous, but because they no longer believe they deserve to be at the front. And the pain is not in being hurt by someone, it is in accepting that shrinking is the safest way to survive. I used to be one of them. I thought staying quiet, avoiding attention, not asserting myself was a sign of maturity. But the more I lived that way, the more I faded from my own life. I started speaking less, dreaming smaller, stepping back more than I stepped forward. Since when did dreams need to be justified? Since when did passion need proof before it could be pursued? Since when did I have to apologize for wanting more than what made others comfortable? If you have ever felt like that, I get it. That feeling of pretending to be okay with a version of yourself that has been edited down just to fit into a room never built for your vision. But let me tell you the truth. You were not born to fit into a room that is too small. You were born to expand the space with your voice, your actions, your presence. When you were a child, you had no fear saying, I will be a superhero. I will go to the moon. You were not afraid of being laughed at. You did not calculate risk. You believed anything was possible. That belief was not naive. It was the original state of a soul, not yet programmed by doubt and disappointment. But then time passed, pain came, judgment piled up, and slowly that belief began to fade. You heard enough of, be careful. Maybe you are not the right fit. Don't aim too high. And you started shrinking. Not because you lost your greatness, but because you believed playing small was the only way to avoid getting hurt again. But here's what I learned, often through painful lessons. Playing small does not protect you. It only makes you feel safe inside a box that is slowly closing in around you. It makes you feel suffocated when you see others living big, because deep down you know you once wanted that too. But now you are too afraid to want it again. And that fear, that silent giving up, is what is choking you. So I am here to tell you, playing small is not humility. It is the denial of your true worth. Real humility is knowing what you have and using it to create something good. It is quiet strength, not silence from fear. It is choosing not to prove you are better than others, but also refusing to hide your gifts just to make others feel more comfortable. If something makes you shrink, ask yourself, am I being humble or am I dimming myself to be accepted? Because if you keep living below your standards, just to keep the peace, just to be liked, just to not disturb anyone, you will be the first to lose respect for yourself. No one but you can kill your potential by choosing to play small. And no one but you can choose to come alive again, to live in full version, clear and powerful, not needing to shout, but never bowing your head. If you are still reading this, take a few seconds. Ask yourself, am I walking into my future at my full height, or am I still crouching just to avoid standing out? Comment below, tell me, have you ever held yourself back out of fear of being judged? I want to hear your story. And if this part spoke to something inside you, hit like, subscribe, and stay. The next chapters go even deeper. There was a moment I will never forget. One time I wrote down an idea I believed could change the entire direction of a project. I spent weeks thinking it through, polishing every detail. But when the opportunity came to share it, I stayed quiet. Not because it wasn't good enough, but because I was waiting for someone to nod, waiting for someone to say, go ahead. But no one said anything. And that idea slowly died in silence. Not because it lacked potential, but because I shut it down from the inside. I denied myself simply because I had not yet been given permission. It is easy to fall into that trap. You have something you want to do, a step you want to take, a project you want to start, but you just stand there, not because you are not skilled enough, but because you have silently set one condition: I will move only when someone gives me the green light. The problem is, no one is holding that light. No one lives your life deeply enough to feel the pull you feel. No one wakes up every morning with the urge that only you can understand. And the more you wait for approval, the further you push away the thing you could have started long ago. I used to think that when I was good enough, disciplined enough, perfect enough, someone would come and tap me on the shoulder and say, "Now you are ready." But life does not work that way. No one comes knocking to hand you authority. You have to choose that for yourself. You have to sign your own permission slip. There is no approval committee, no visa for your dreams, no boarding pass for the passion you want to live. And the truth is, the longer you wait, the louder the fear gets. Waiting does not calm your nerves. It only gives the voice in your head more time to doubt you. Because the truth is this: most people are not stuck because of reality. They are stuck because of conditional delay. Delay until they are approved. Delay until no one disapproves. Delay until enough people cheer. But you don't need the crowd. You need a choice. The choice to live with responsibility instead of waiting for permission. You can do it without applause. You can begin even if no one is watching. You can stand for what you believe, even if others do not understand yet. Not because you are reckless, but because you are clear. And real direction never needs permission. I have seen too many talented people live quiet lives, not because they had nothing to say, but because they learned how to ask for permission too well. Permission to be different, permission to take risks, permission to live bigger than the boxes they were given. But then they realized no one stands in the way louder than their own doubt. And no one gives power stronger than the clear decision that says, I am doing this, not because I was allowed, but because I chose to. When you stop asking for permission, you begin to reclaim leadership in your own life. You begin asking better questions. Is this right for me? Instead of, what will they think? You stop using someone else's standards as the measure for your limits, and you step forward with clarity, not to impress, but to live honestly. And that honesty is what makes you strong. People often say, wait for the right time. But no time is right if you are not right with yourself. And there's no moment more powerful than the one where you stop seeking agreement and start walking with commitment from within. You may not have approval, but you have understanding. You may not have guarantees, but you have integrity. And that is enough to begin. No permission needed, no filter required, no raised hand asking for the right to live big. If you are waiting for a sign to start, this is it. Not because someone said you are ready, but because you finally say it to yourself, I have waited long enough. Now is the time to move. You don't need permission. You need a decision. And that decision is always yours. No one else can live your life. And no one else has the power to stop you from living what you believe. I used to talk to myself like I was my own worst enemy. Every mistake, I repeated it like a sentence. Every disappointment, I punished myself with words I would never dare say to anyone else. It did not come from hatred, it came from habit. A habit built over the years when I started believing that being hard on myself was the way to grow. But the truth is, you cannot grow on soil made of insult. You cannot bloom in an environment where every word you hear is not enough, not good, not worthy. If someone followed you around all day and said the things you say to yourself in your mind, would you let them stay? And if the answer is no, then why do you allow yourself to hear it every day? Not once, but dozens, hundreds of times in your head. Every time you mess up, delay something, or fall short of perfection. I want you to see this clearly. You are not failing because you lack ability. You are slowing down because you are carrying a voice that constantly reminds you that you can't. That voice does not come from an enemy. It lives inside you, and you have believed it long enough to make it feel like truth. But here is something you must remember. Every belief is built from language, and the language you use with yourself is the foundation of every belief you hold. Every time you say, "I always mess things up," you are not just describing the past, you are programming the future. Your brain does not know the difference between what is true and what you repeat. It just listens and it obeys. So if you want to live differently, you must start speaking differently. I am not telling you to fake positivity. I am not asking you to sugarcoat reality. I am talking about honest but intentional language. Instead of saying, "I always fail," try saying, "I am learning how to do better." Instead of saying, "I am not good enough," try saying, "I am not there yet, but I am moving in that direction." These are not empty affirmations. They are shifts in mental structure. They are the beginning of new behavior. And if you stay consistent long enough, you will be surprised by how your brain starts to believe the kind words you speak. Be your own coach, not your own critic. The world already has enough voices pointing fingers at you. You don't need to join the crowd. Be the one who reminds yourself how far you've come. Remember that you have been tired and still showed up. That you can fall and not be defined by the fall. The words you speak to yourself, even silently, leave a mark. And over time, they shape the person you live as each day. Don't let the voice in your head pull you backward when everything else is pushing you forward. Every morning, before the world rushes in, say something positive, clear, and honest to yourself. It does not have to be grand. Something as simple as, "I can handle today. I will learn something new. I am not perfect, but I am on the right path." These words do more than feel good. They build momentum. They become a compass on uncertain days. And the more you say them, the more you believe. The more you believe, the more you act in alignment with what you say. Confidence does not fall from the sky. It does not arrive after one motivational video or compliment. It comes from choosing to speak truthfully to yourself every day, even before the results show up. Self-belief does not begin with a grand victory. It begins with a kind conversation you choose to have every single day. And you are the only one who can start that conversation. No one can do it for you. No one knows your inner world like you do. So from today on, let the voice inside you become a companion, not a judge. Let every word you think and speak become a seed for strength, for clarity, for trust in the self you are becoming. And you will see you do not need someone else to stand up for you first. You only need yourself to speak right, to stand firm, to keep walking forward. If I had to choose one of the most damaging misunderstandings people believe about confidence, it would be this: I will begin when I feel ready. But let me be clear. No one ever feels completely ready. No one ever wakes up one bright morning, sits up in bed, and declares, "Today I am confident enough to do the hardest thing in my life." Confidence does not come before action. It comes after. It is the reward of those who dare to begin without a guarantee. And I know this, not just because I have read it or studied it, but because I have lived it. I have stood up, trembling, and kept walking. I have felt unsure, but chose not to back down. We often wait for a feeling called enough. Enough knowledge, enough skill, enough courage. But that feeling never comes the way you expect, because enough is not a state, it is a result. And that result only comes when you are willing to step into the unknown. That is something no one teaches us in school. You do not study to become confident so that you can act. You act, and through that action, you slowly learn to believe. I once stood on a stage with shaking hands and a broken voice, but I did not run. I spoke. I stayed. I endured the moment of not being perfect, and the next time, I shook a little less. Then I learned how to adjust my tone. Then I learned to hold eye contact. And slowly, confidence grew. Not because I was gifted, but because I did not quit after the first time. You will never build trust in yourself if you keep standing on the sidelines calculating certainty. Every small step, every imperfect action is a piece of evidence, proof that you can. And that evidence stacks up day after day until you no longer doubt your ability. You do not need to do something massive to make progress. Sometimes the smallest move creates the deepest shift inside. That email you have been putting off, that call you are scared to make, that workout you keep skipping, that post you still haven't shared. When you finish it, no matter the outcome, you win. Not because of what you produced, but because of who you had to become to get it done. That is how confidence is built. Not flashy, not loud, not with a crowd, just an inner commitment. I will do it, even if I do not feel completely ready. What keeps most people stuck is not lack of talent. It is waiting for a magical signal that says, now is the time. But no one enters your life to hand you a badge that says, this is the perfect moment. You create the moment through action. You choose to move first, and then belief follows. And I get it. The first steps are always the hardest because there is nothing to hold on to yet. No history, no wins, no proof. But when you have nothing and you still choose to act, you are building the most precious thing of all, grit. Not the grit of someone who has already succeeded, but the grit of someone who refuses to run. Look back at everything you have already been through. You may have come this far without realizing how much stronger you have become. That is why, when you begin to move forward, even in small ways, even in quiet decisions, even in silent actions, you start becoming the version of you that once felt impossible. And bit by bit, you rewrite the story in your mind from I am not sure to I can, from I am not good enough to I am improving, from I am afraid to I have already begun. Confidence does not fall from the sky. It does not require big achievements. It is created. It is born from doing the very things you once thought you could not do. It grows from process, not magic. And the strongest proof of your ability is not in how sure you felt. It is in the fact that you moved forward anyway with nothing certain but your decision to try. I used to live by the rhythm of other people's eyes. After finishing something, I would not ask myself, am I proud of this? I would immediately scan the room to see who nodded, who reacted. One time, I shared an idea I deeply believed in. But when the room went silent for a few seconds, I walked back to my seat and crossed out my own idea. No one had to say a word. Not because it was wrong, but because I could not bear the feeling of being misunderstood. And in that moment, I learned a hard but honest truth. Approval can push you to try harder, but it can also quietly lead you to lose yourself. The problem with living for approval is that it never ends. You will always need one more like, one more compliment, one more person to say they agree just to feel okay. But that okay feeling does not last, because every time you get approval, the standard goes higher. And every time you do not get the response you hoped for, you start to question yourself. Even if you did everything right, even if you gave your best, you begin to live like a microphone, constantly picking up signals instead of being a speaker that shares your own voice. I am not saying that being liked is wrong. We all need connection. But there is a thin line between real connection and addiction to validation. When you start doing things just to avoid being judged, you give up control of your life. You let other people's opinions decide your direction, your speed, even your goals. And slowly, you trade the clarity inside for a false sense of comfort on the outside. If you are not careful, approval turns you into a version of yourself that is easy to digest, easy to predict, easy to like but not true. You stop saying what you believe. You start saying what sounds nice. You stop living by your values. You start living by reaction metrics. You stop asking, is this right for me? You ask, what will they think if I do this? And when that happens, you are not living freely. You are performing with control. There came a point when I had to pause. I had to ask myself, if I keep living for acceptance, what exactly will I end up accepting? Every time I bent my boundaries to match someone else's standards, I was loosening the roots of my own identity. I began confusing support with truth. I forgot that peace does not come from the absence of criticism. Peace comes from knowing you are doing what is right, even if no one claps. You were not born to chase every glance in the room. You are not a radar. You are the driver. Your worth is not tied to who approves of you. It comes from living true, living honest, and being kind to yourself. And when you live that way long enough, you build a kind of energy that is rare. You can be misunderstood without needing to explain. You can be rejected without losing your balance. You can be criticized and still stay centered. That is the kind of freedom no applause can buy. That is where real peace begins. And I'm not saying this is easy, because choosing truth means accepting that not everyone will get you. Not everyone will like you. Not everyone will walk with you. But you have a powerful choice. Live by grounded clarity, or keep running after the endless noise of approval. One leads to strength, the other leads to exhaustion. One is a map you draw, the other is a maze with no exit. And deep down, you already know the answer. I no longer ask, will they like me? I ask, is this aligned with my identity, my values, and the path I am choosing? And that answer, even without applause, is enough for me to sleep in peace at the end of the day. It is the sleep of someone who does not need to prove anything. Just someone who chooses to live true and finds peace from within. I used to be the kind of person who would push away compliments. I would say, it was nothing. I just got lucky. Or worse, I would smile awkwardly and quickly change the subject. Not because I wasn't happy, but because deep down, I didn't think I deserved it. I felt uncomfortable when others noticed something good in me because I had trained myself to focus on what wasn't perfect. I always saw myself as not quite there. So I didn't allow myself to fully receive anything, not even a sincere word of recognition. And then I realized this: we are taught how to give, but we are rarely taught how to receive. We speak kind words to others so easily, yet we struggle to say thank you without minimizing ourselves. When did owning your win become mistaken for arrogance? When did self-respect get confused with pride? When did we start believing that being good must come with shrinking ourselves to invisibility? I am not saying you should stand in a crowd and shout about your success. I am talking about something much more important. You have the right to look at your own effort and say, I did that. Not because you need attention, but because you need inner affirmation to keep building the next steps. The truth is, if you keep dismissing what you have achieved, you are teaching your brain that your efforts are not worth remembering. And if that pattern repeats long enough, you start to believe success is just a lucky accident, not the result of your discipline and grit. I once sat in an important interview. After I finished speaking, the person across from me said, "You did really well. I'm impressed by how clearly you presented your ideas." And me, without thinking, replied, "I guess I just got lucky today." But that night, I could not sleep, not because of the interview, but because I felt like I had dropped something important. A genuine compliment, a moment that should have become a source of strength. I threw it away, just because I wasn't used to letting people see the light in me. But your light does not need an apology. You do not have to shrink to make others comfortable. Shining is not bragging. It is honesty. Honesty that you worked hard. Honesty that you overcame something difficult. Honesty that you made progress, even if just one step. When you can stand in your light without stepping back, you are not just allowing yourself to grow. You are giving silent permission for others to do the same. Learning to receive a compliment is not just a communication skill, it is an act of healing. It tells your inner self, I am not perfect, but this I did well, and that matters. Because if you keep rushing past moments of pride, you will never feel like you're improving. even if you truly are. You will keep feeling not enough, need to do more, not there yet, without realizing how far you've already come. More importantly, when you learn to own your wins, you build an internal system of proof that you are capable, that you are trustworthy, that you have every reason to keep going. You do not need to shout that you are good. You just need to hold your head high enough not to walk away from what you have built with sweat and perseverance. Every compliment, if received with kindness and gratitude, is a brick in the foundation of real confidence. Not loud, not flashy, but steady and repeated over time. So next time someone says, "You did great," don't say, "No, not really." Pause, smile, and say, "Thank you. I really worked hard for that." That is not arrogance. That is honesty with yourself. And when you learn how to stand in that light without apology, you begin to live from the inside out, not from the frequency of self-doubt, but from the truth of self-respect. I used to think fear was a signal to stop, a warning, a boundary. Every time it showed up, I would pull back and search for a safer way out. I told myself, if I'm afraid, it means I'm not ready. But then I realized something. Fear is not always a blocker. Sometimes it is a signpost. It is not a red light. It is a flashing yellow telling you you are about to enter a space that matters, a place that is real, where something meaningful is waiting. We grow up believing that fear is something to avoid. But if you look closely, you'll see you only fear what matters to you. No one is afraid of what feels meaningless. We fear speaking in front of a crowd because we have something important to say. We fear starting something new because we care about the outcome. We fear losing someone because we value them deeply. Fear is not just a barrier. It is evidence of what we long for. I still remember the first time I stepped onto a stage. My heart pounded like a drum. I couldn't control my hands. My thoughts felt blurred. If you had asked me then if I felt confident, the answer would have been a clear no. But I stepped out anyway. I didn't wait to feel fearless. I just decided, it's okay to be scared, I'm doing this anyway. And that was the first time I truly understood. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision to move forward while fear is still in the room. The problem is, we believe that fear means we're not ready, not skilled enough, not solid enough to start. But the truth is, if you wait until you're no longer afraid, you'll never begin. The longer you delay, the bigger the fear becomes. The more you stay silent, the louder it gets. And before you know it, you're designing your life to avoid risk, but also losing truth, courage, and the deep meaning of what it means to be alive. I'm not promoting recklessness, but I am encouraging you to listen to fear like a map. Ask it, why are you here? What am I so afraid of? Is what I'm fearing the very thing my heart wants most? And more often than not, the answer is yes. The thing that makes you tremble is often the thing that makes you feel alive. Where your heart races, growth is waiting. None of us are immune to fear, but you have a choice. Let it drive or let it ride beside you while you keep your hands on the wheel. Don't try to throw fear out of your life. Just place it in the right seat, the passenger seat, acknowledge it, hear it, then keep driving because you have direction, you have purpose, and you have a quiet belief that just beyond the fear is a stronger version of you. Think back. When was the last time fear held you back? What opportunity did you turn down because of a not sure feeling? What conversation did you avoid because you felt unready? What decision have you not made, not because you didn't know what was right, but because you weren't ready to be judged? And if you keep living like that for 5 more years, what will you carry with you? Safety or regret? Fear, when you are still enough to observe it, is a mirror. It shows you what truly matters. It reveals the borders you're meant to cross. It reminds you that you are alive, not just surviving. So next time fear arrives, don't shut it out. Look straight at it and ask, what are you trying to tell me? Then take a step. No need to erase the fear. Just nod at it and keep moving. Because in the end, your life won't be measured by how many times you stayed safe. It will be measured by how many times you walked toward what truly mattered, even when your voice shook, your hands trembled, and your heart raced. Fear is a sign, not a stop sign. And you don't need it to disappear. You just need to learn how to carry it and keep moving toward the light. I used to carry my past like a backpack full of stones. No one asked me to wear it, but I wore it every day like a silent punishment. A mistake at work, a broken relationship, words I said in anger, a wrong decision that took me off course. I never spoke them out loud, but they hovered in the back of my mind like background noise. You messed up last time. You already failed. Who says it won't happen again? So I kept moving, not exactly stuck, but never fully at peace. Some people don't need others to remind them of their past. They judge themselves every day. Some people feel behind, not because they are lazy, but because they are carrying a past so heavy that every step forward feels 10 times harder. And if you have ever lived that way, I want you to know you are not alone, but you don't have to keep living that way. We tend to define ourselves by what happened, especially the painful parts, a loss, a betrayal, a choice that shattered everything. And then we label ourselves. I'm someone who ruins things, or worse. I'm the reason it all fell apart. But the truth is this: the past is a chapter. It shapes you, but it doesn't get to write the rest. Imagine a book with hundreds of pages. Just because chapter 5 was filled with darkness does not mean the whole book is a tragedy. But we keep rereading the same chapter, looping the same story in our minds like it's the whole truth. We don't just remember, we relive. And that's what keeps us trapped. I once missed a life-changing opportunity because I was still carrying fear from a past failure. I thought I had moved on, but really, I had just gotten good at hiding it. And when a new chance came, something that should have felt like a gift, I looked at it through the lens of old wounds. I didn't chase it. I played it safe. And the cost wasn't failure. The cost was the quiet ache of I could have been more. What needs to change is not your past. What needs to change is the way you tell your past to yourself. You can look at the mistake and say, I ruined that, so I'm no good. Or you can say, I learned something I'll never repeat. One story, two versions, one moment that can break you, or one that can build you. You cannot rewrite the old chapter, but you can write the rest of the story in a way that makes that chapter worth existing by living differently, choosing better, and refusing to let shame be your compass. You don't have to live as if your past mistakes are a sentence you'll carry forever. You are the person who survived them, and survival is a kind of victory. I don't know what your past holds. Maybe it is something no one else knows. Maybe it is a pain you've never spoken out loud. But I know this: you don't have to carry it as your identity anymore. It can be part of the journey, but it does not get to define your whole name. And today, if you are still breathing, still thinking, still reading this, you still have the power to write a new chapter. Do not let anyone, including yourself, box you into what used to be. You are not your mistakes. You are the one who can learn from them. You are not your scars. You are the one who can heal and keep walking. And you don't need anyone else's forgiveness to give yourself permission to step into a better version of you. Because in the end, you cannot rewrite the past. But you can live the rest of your life in a way that turns the past into a chapter worth learning from, not a sentence you carry forever. I used to look around and feel like I was being left behind. At this age, that person already had a house. Another had a name, a platform, a following. Others were steps ahead of me. I wasn't jealous, but I began to question myself. Am I too slow? Did I take the wrong path? And when you live in a world where other people's milestones are constantly displayed in real time, it's hard not to compare, hard not to feel pressure, hard not to measure your life by someone else's pace. But then I realized something that changed the way I see everything. The only race worth running is your own, because none of us starts from the same starting line. We don't wear the same shoes, carry the same weight, or run against the same wind. Comparing your path to theirs is like comparing a mountain climb to a swim. Same effort, same exhaustion, but a completely different journey. So why are you trying to win a race that was never designed for you? We often confuse progress with speed, but they are not the same. Some people move fast, but go nowhere. Others move slowly, but every step is solid, aligned, and sustainable. I've met people who seemed far ahead, but eventually forgot why they were even running. You, on the other hand, if you know why you began, you won't get lost, even if you're not there yet. I'm not denying the pressure of time, but you can't force a seed to bloom on someone else's schedule. You need your own season. You need your own sunlight, your own rain, and even your own stretches of stillness that feel like waiting until one morning you look back and realize, I've actually grown. Not because you rushed, but because you never gave up. Because you didn't trade your identity just to look successful. You may not have arrived yet, but you're walking in the right direction. And that matters more than speed. In a world that keeps shouting faster, more, sooner, you need a voice inside you that says, I don't need to beat anyone. I just need to be true to my path. That is where peace begins. Not when you achieve something, but when you stop carrying the weight of expectations that were never yours. I once asked a mentor, how do I know I'm on the right path if everyone around me seems to be moving faster? He smiled and said, when you hike up a mountain, the winner isn't the one who gets to the top first. It's the one who still has enough breath to enjoy the view. I never forgot that. Because I don't want to reach the top with an exhausted heart, a confused mind, and a version of myself I no longer recognize just to keep up with everyone else. So if today you feel like you're falling behind, don't panic. Instead, ask yourself, what am I really chasing? Who defined this finish line? And if no one were watching, would I still want to move in this direction? If the answer is yes, then you are not behind. You are aligned. And someone who is aligned has no need to compare. No one else can live your life for you. And no one else can truly know where your finish line lies. Only you. With all your experiences, your intuition, your wounds, and your quiet dreams, only you know what makes your heart beat faster, what makes you wake up and keep going. Stay loyal to that, not to the competition. And in the end, when you stop comparing, you don't just live with more peace, you also begin to see others with more compassion. You stop competing, you start cheering, you stop measuring. You begin to understand. Everyone is fighting battles you cannot see. And in that moment, you, the one who once doubted yourself, becomes someone who inspires those still finding their way. You've walked with me through 10 chapters. Not just words, but a real journey. From self-doubt to choosing truth. From chasing the eyes of others to reclaiming the light within. From rejecting your worth to learning how to stand still in it. I don't know where you are right now in that journey, but if you're still reading these final lines, it means you're braver than you think, more ready than you believe, and you've already begun, you just haven't named it yet. I'm not here to hand you a perfect map. I'm simply here to remind you. You don't need permission to live in truth. You don't need applause to begin again. You don't need validation to know you deserve love, to be heard, to take steady steps even with an imperfect past. Because we don't need perfection to move forward. We only need honesty, clarity, and the choice not to stop. If any part of this journey has spoken to you, then please don't let it remain a fleeting moment of inspiration. Turn it into action. Just one small act. Maybe it's saying the thing you've been afraid to say. Maybe it's turning down something that no longer feels like you. Maybe it's finally forgiving yourself after years of blame. That action, even the smallest one, can open a door you never knew was there. I know personal change is never easy, but you don't have to do it all at once, and you don't have to do it alone. You just need to begin from within. Every word you choose, every boundary you set, every decision made from a quiet place inside will begin to shift the way you live, and from there, shift the world around you. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. Thank you for trusting me to walk beside you through each part of this journey. But most of all, thank you for no longer rejecting yourself. I hope with all my heart that you have the strength to do what is right, even when it's hard. The softness to forgive yourself, even when you are not finished healing. And the peace to keep going, even when the world spins loud around you. Take care of your health, take care of your hope, and take care of your soul, because you are worth it. I'm Jefferson Fisher, and I believe this world becomes a better place starting with the way you choose to live with yourself.